Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Broken Brains Monday Mental Health Tip. It's me, Dwight, here with you again. Today, I want to offer a couple of things that I think are kind of fun to consider if you are trying to cut down in scrolling. So, just scrolling on your phone or social medias or whatever it is that you find you're doing too much of. Because I think most of us find that we have something like that we are doing too much of. So these are just three little ideas, and I go into each of them just a little bit under the surface. Hopefully you find something that either is useful or gives you a good idea of your own. By the way, that's something that I believe is also part of therapy. Is it's not just getting an idea from your therapist. It's oftentimes processing things, or if they have ideas to try, either one, it oftentimes will lead you to something that is even better than what they said or what was said in session. So you should believe in yourself. One quick reminder that our highlighted charity this month is Horses of Hope in Isabela, Puerto Rico. Go to horsesofhopepr.org to learn more about this great organization that provides equine therapy and interactions with horse-based treatment opportunities for people who are disabled or who are struggling with mental health, particularly trauma. This is something that is highly cost prohibitive in many cases, and they offer reduced cost to no cost help for people in that way. So check them out at horsesofhopepr.org if you'd like to get involved with their work or to donate. So the first thing that you can try, if you're caught up in the scrolling game, and particularly, by the way, if you find yourself doom scrolling, looking for bad news, or chip on your shoulder scrolling where you're looking for a fight, even if it's a righteous cause, it's still something to be cautious of. And modern algorithms are actually trying to find, apparently, not just things that you will like, but even more particularly things that you will hate, because it gets us involved when we have a feeling associated with something we hate. So the first one is fidget, not just to fidget around, and I'm not just mispronouncing the 1980s TV show Gidget. When we hear fidget, many people think of a fidget spinner or a fidget cube, which, by the way, seemed like it was a precursor to the fidget spinner, but didn't quite make it as big. I don't know why, because they're pretty cool. I got several of them here in my office. That's not what I mean necessarily. A fidget is an old school term in psychology, particularly when you're looking at things like ADHD or anxiety reduction, or anything that has to do with kind of divided attention or things of that nature. It is meant to be a healthy, minimal self-distraction. So in the cases of anxiety, you might be reducing your anxiety by diverting the amount of attention that goes to it. In the cases of ADHD or distractibility, they've found that a little bit of a purposeful distraction, if also coupled with trying to pay attention to something, actually makes us a little more successful. It's sort of like a controlled burn of distraction. So a fidget can be anything that takes just a little bit of attention, and think of it in terms of something that is physically you're interacting with, generally speaking through the hands and fingers, where it could be as simple as playing with a pen. It could be, as a matter of fact, I just noticed right now, I have a little fountain pen in my hand with a little cap on it, but I'm holding it in two hands, holding the cap steady, and then rotating the part within the cap, and then flipping the cap, and then doing it again. So this is not a visual medium, but just notice that I was doing that kind of little fidget absent-mindedly while I was talking. So this is a kind of thing that we might find ourselves doing. We can also feel the texture. This pen has a little diamond pattern on the bottom of it. I can kind of feel it has a little plasticky topper thing made to look kind of fancy on that I can rub my finger on. So that was the sound of the pen hitting the desk because I just put it down. My attention is all on you folks. Hopefully, we'll see. Maybe I'll pick up something else, like this jump drive. Anyway, so if you have something that you can busy yourself with your fingers, even if it's just a minimal thing, this is actually a good one for if you are in a situation where you're trying to pay attention to something and you get caught up in scrolling. And oftentimes we find that we are not paying attention or enjoying the thing that we are seeing. I've had it happen where there's a movie or a second season of a show or something that I've been actually looking forward to seeing. And if I'm not purposeful, I will find myself starting to just, oh, here's Instagram. And then it's like, wait, hold on. This is not just an absent-minded, I don't know, turn on the TV moment. This is a moment where it's like, I've been waiting for this, and now I'm more distracted than I would be if I just had a little something in my hand that I was fidgeting around with. If you ever find yourself in dire need, meaning that you could use a fidget, but you don't have anything, first of all, question that. Do I have anything? I might have my keys. I might have my wallet, and maybe there's a card or something in there I can pull out and play around with in my hands. So we might often have those. But if we don't have those or that's not working, you can also do just sort of a freewheeling fidget. Try to rub your thumb against your fingertips to go through each of the fingers, go up and down like that, just kind of absentmindedly. Nobody's probably even going to notice you're doing that. You can take your hand and run it a little bit lightly on the chair that you're sitting on the arm of the chair or something. You can cross your legs and kind of tap on your shoe or something like that. There are things around. Have you ever messed with the seam on the bottom of your shirt or something like that? If you ever have a need to like just touch and fidget like that, generally speaking, you can do something like that. Many times we find ourselves doing it anyway, even if we don't have ADHD. There are many times where we find ourselves kind of fidgetingly messing with something. And so doing that, not just absentmindedly, but on purpose, as a way to reduce scrolling. Once again, it's a great way to do it if your attention is being divided between scrolling and something else. Now, here's one that you can do if you just find yourself just scrolling when you're not doing anything, okay? So if you find yourself scrolling when you're just sitting there and just scrolling, and maybe this is purposeful and you've given yourself a time limit and you're just, okay, so I'm not really talking about that. I'm talking about like, here I am, didn't plan it, it's just happening, time is escaping from me. Okay, so having a little interruption in the mindlessness of the scrolling. In other words, doing something and getting something on that screen that is different than the scrolling. Okay, this is different than getting up and doing something else. This is trying to use the same sort of impulse, right? And one of the things that's great about this, if this is a goal, is many of us, on your smartphones, you've got the ability to put apps together in a little folder. And so you can put apps together that are not scrolling. You might find that something like a little game, like a solitaire or something, if it's mentally engaging, probably a little bit better than something that isn't, but a game is not scrolling. And by the way, this is the goal, what we're talking about. We're not talking about finding the perfect thing to do with this moment. We're talking about if I want to get away from scrolling, I'm going to do something that is better than scrolling, which may be subjective, but I feel like many of these ones I'm mentioning probably are. Another thing you can do is find an app that has a daily word trivia, crossword puzzle, maybe movie trivia. I have several of those apps that I enjoy. Big surprise if you listen to the show. Movie trivia is something that's kind of fun to delve into for me. Or if not an app, do I have a bookmarked, either on the home screen of my phone or just in my little internet browser, of some sites that I could go to. Now, here's one way to get myself to do this instead of scrolling, okay, to make it still a little engaging. Pick something that you are curious about. In fact, you might just even make a list throughout the day to say, oh, somebody said this. I'm going to maybe I'm going to open my phone up and actually make a list in my notes or some kind of a to-do list app, or maybe I jot it down in a notebook if you're a notebook carrier, whatever it is that you do. Whenever you have a curiosity, no matter how fleeting, if you don't have a moment, then put it on there. And then what you can do is look it up sometime. And now here's the trick. Sometimes it's like, I'm just going to scroll. I don't want to look up the French Resistance in Wikipedia or something like that, whatever it was I was curious about. So therefore, start out by telling yourself, I am going to look that up, though, for 5 minutes. And here's the mental trick with that. 2 parts of it. One is that if you engage with something for 5 minutes, just like with scrolling, if you may activate the same part of your brain, and next thing you know, you're going to be looking up something that it was of interest to you instead of just scrolling through TikTok or Instagram Reels or whatever. So that's the first trick, is you may be tricking yourself into doing it longer than 5 minutes. Now, here's the other part of this trick is, what if you only do it for 5 minutes? If you successfully do something for 5 minutes, that's 300 seconds. 10 minutes is 600 seconds. I don't want to keep showing my math skills off, but that's not very long. However, if you were to do that, let's say, I don't know, every other time that you scrolled, or every time that you scrolled, or even every third time, there's other intervals of time. I'll let you figure those out for yourself. But even if you did it not every single time, those 5 minutes, they do add up. And I mean, think about if you took $5 every time you were going to scroll and dropped it in a jar, how long before you'd have enough to go get a donut or maybe even lunch or something like that. What I'm trying to say is this adds up, and next thing I know, I have a lot of little factoids that I have learned. Or maybe I know a lot about the French Resistance to World War II, I think. Is that what I'm talking about? It's not the French Revolution. That's what I thought I said. But then I just realized it was something different. So see, I can still be distractible while I'm not scrolling. It's okay. And maybe that part will tie in with something. So, you're adding up time where you might be learning something you're interested in. Maybe it's even a concerted effort. I mean, some people throw in like Duolingo or one of those things. That's great too if you can get yourself into skill building during this time. I'm going to put this under this category of number 2 still. But one of the issues with that is that sometimes we won't engage with it because we scroll because we're mentally tired, okay? But we tend to go to something that is soothing in one way or another. TikToks or Instagram feed us reels, generally of things that we want to interact with, good or bad. And, they're funny sometimes, or they are thought-provoking other times, or stuff like that. And so having something that's a little funny or thought-provoking under the heading of number 2 is also, if you like comedy reels that pop up, but yet you find yourself scrolling for too long, a little bit better than that is probably going over to something like YouTube, okay? And just looking up comedians that you are interested in. Did you know, if you're interested even in audio, if you go to an app like, I think Spotify does this. I know Pandora used to. Does everybody remember Pandora? Maybe you should research that for 5 minutes a day and see whatever happened to Pandora. I think it still works last time I tried to use the app. But anyway, one of those kinds of programs where you're supposed to enter something and it might create a playlist for you, something similar. A lot of those you can put in a comedian's name, for example, and it will curate a list for you of similar types of comedians and funny stuff. So that's a way to say, I'm still trying to get something that I would have got out of that, but it's more directed. And that is a key when you're doing this second technique, is that you're doing something direct and on purpose, which once again, better than scrolling. Now, the third one, you're going to want to mash the stop button right away. So don't, just hang with me for a second. The third one is exercise. Okay, whoa, hold on. Don't run away. Unless you're running away in a purposeful jogging way, I guess that would be exercise. But don't misunderstand. I think the problem is when people mention exercise for anything psychological, we have a concept. And that concept is reinforced by, speaking of social media, how many like fitness gurus and coaches do you find on there? Nothing against any of y'all out there who do that, but we gotta try to know what our purpose is. If my goal is I need something to take away from some of the mindless distraction, I want something that's also going to give me some release psychologically. Now, if I am someone who enjoys going out for a 7-mile run and I just love that number for some reason. Don't know why, not a rounder number. Or I'm someone who loves to go out in my backyard and do the shot put. Okay. And hope you have a pretty big yard if you're doing that. I might not need a big yard if I was shot putting, but either way, if I'm really like working out, if you like that, great. But as I often say on the show, if you're going for the emotional, psychological benefit of exercise, what you really need is movement. We are not at that moment looking for a certain cardiovascular or weight gain type of goal or body sculpting or whatever it is that it is. Those are separate goals. Do that if you want to, purposefully. But if you're just looking for something that's like, oh, I would be scrolling right now, it's movement. Okay, now anything that you can do oftentimes to get yourself to stand up, for example, you've already interrupted the process. For most of us, that's interrupting the process. Okay, I will say, even if you can't get off the scrolling, notice your body posture. You may have heard the term shrimping. Shrimping refers to the posture that we often strike when we are scrolling. As we've got the little hunched over, we're looking down at this little screen in our hands. So try lifting your arm up, straighten your back up, try to be looking forward, okay? So if you are going to scroll, that's already some body movement that you're already doing. But if you're able to put the phone down for a second, if you're able to stand up, just do something simple like stretch your arms out to your sides, stretch them out above you, act like you're trying to touch the ceiling or the walls around you. Maybe move them up and down, back and forth. I'm actually doing it right now without even thinking about doing it. I know you can't see me. I do know that. Maybe bend down touch the floor. Okay. Do you have to like do it in some particular form? No. If you're trying to get the muscle stretch benefits, sure. But if you're just trying to release endorphins and trying to do something different that will distract you away from the scrolling or be of some kind of emotional stress relief benefit in the short term, no, we're not going to judge what we're doing. Move around a little bit. Okay. You can turn on music and try to get some movement going that way. Another thing you can do is if you are, once again, into the scrolling and you can get away from it being video based, try to find something audio based, then get up and move around. I just had someone tell me recently that they replaced scrolling through their phone with actually doing little chores around the house. Now, that doesn't sound much fun, and it certainly wasn't an automatic replacement. It took them a while, but once they felt sort of a mental reset, they started to really enjoy just puttering around, straighten something up. They're moving around, and even sometimes it sounds like turns into, oh, I did the dishes today. I might not have if I was sitting over there, and I might feel better with some clean dishes than I did with, 3 hours of scrolling and getting into political arguments or highlighting silly animal videos. There's no shame in enjoying a little bit of political, well, I don't know how, depends on the nature of your arguments, but there's no shame in that. There's no shame in little animal videos. And so one thing I'll say outside of the three things is purposefulness, mindfulness. If you find that there is an amount of scrolling, then instead of abstinence-based treatment, let's do harm reduction. You guys listen to the show, you know the differences between those two. Harm reduction, we're just going to try to do a little less. Or maybe instead of worrying about how long, I'm going to try to do it purposefully. That might involve setting a time limit for myself, but it's not so much about the 15 minutes versus the hour as it is about I'm doing it on purpose, okay? And if I find that I'm able to do something on purpose and I don't do it as often as I did do it, or I make some compromise with myself where I'm going to get up and move around, or I'm going to look up something I like, or I'm going to do something fidgety with my hands, or maybe even if I'm in a situation where I can do something that's a little mentally engaging, like crochet or something. If I can get myself to do that for X number of minutes before I pick up my phone, I'm interrupting the automatic habitual flirting with addictive part of me that's doing that. So that's the basis on a couple of these little tipoids to see if you like them. Give them a try. I'd love to hear from you if you've found things that help you to mix up your screen time and your lost moments that go along with this kind of a habit. So hit me up if you want to, dwighthurst@gmail.com, or go to dwighthurst.com/contact if you feel like filling out the, that form instead. However you do, I'll see it come in. I think I mentioned this the other day. Recently, I've heard from a couple of you that had some comments on things, and I'm really grateful for that and love to hear when you guys have things to say. So one more time, I'll just mention Horses of Hope. HorsesofHopePR.org is where you find that, our highlighted charity for this month. All right, so there'll be another regular episode tomorrow where you'll hear a wonderful interview. I know that it is because I've been editing all of them. I don't remember which one is tomorrow off the top of my head, but I know it's wonderful because there's been some pretty cool ones lately. So I'm sure you'll enjoy it. Have a good week.
No one hates history, they just haven't found the right teacher yet. Or in this case, a nerdy best friend who loves to tell you all about world history, women's history, and weird history. Hi, I'm TK, the creator of For the Love of History podcast, a place for people who want to learn more but don't know where to start, and history lovers who want to break from the mainstream. From rat trials to warrior women, we cover topics from every country and era. Whether you're a history expert or just starting out, there's a place for you here in the Time Machine. So join me every Friday on your favorite podcast platform and YouTube for a brand new topic. See you there. Bye.